Hey, good Wednesday, everybody. It's your midday, midweek connection, and we are connecting today with the big goings on up in Milwaukee, the Republican National Convention, all part of our political process. In a couple weeks, the Democrats will gather in Chicago, my hometown. And since this podcast is got to have some fun, I'm not sure where I'm going to find that in this, but people that go to conventions say there is fun. Got to be truth, and it's got to have some connection to blackness. So, where do we find that in the Republican National Convention? Well, we're going to follow a radio station that always has some connection to blackness because it started out as Voice of the Negro. Now it's Voice of the Nation. WVON is in Milwaukee. And my dear friends, afternoon hosts Atiba Buchanan and Darlene Hill are joining me now from Milwaukee. I love that WVON is up there in person, checking out what's going on with the Republicans' agenda and their political happenings, which have been extremely active. Wouldn't you say? How you guys doing?
Absolutely, Robin. You know what? And we had a conversation about being here in Milwaukee at WVON because, like you said, the DNC is right there in Chicago, and we're figuring, okay, we're right around the block. We have a responsibility to the listeners at WVON to be fair and balanced and be credible. And of course, we had to cover the RNC, and especially in light of what happened last weekend with the assassination attempt of former President Donald Trump.
Yeah, absolutely. We are ecstatic to be here. We arrived not long ago, but the energy is palpable, and I absolutely love it.
So I want from at the beginning and at the end, I want to tell everybody how they can listen to you today and your coverage, because one thing I love about WVON, it is all talk. You're going to be talking about this for your entire, you're going to be on the air, what, from three
From two to
to
2 to 6 today and tomorrow. And of course, we can always listen on the WVON app as well as iHeartRadio's app.
Okay, yeah, that's online is the best way to listen. That's how, and I just push my little app right on my phone
Right.
because that's the best signal. So black people and the Republican Party. This has been a not a love affair. It has there. Black people who are Republicans often don't even want to tell people they're Republican. Yet, there was quite a showing yesterday. The Black Mayors Association, which was founded by is the name Richard Irvin? Yeah, Richard Irvin, who ran for governor here in Illinois. And they had a reception for Black Republicans, which was jam packed. So I've often wondered, how big is that footprint within the Republican Party? Black people actually coming out and saying I'm Republican. Have you looked into that?
Yeah, I can tell you what we receive as from our listeners on our show.
Hmm.
We certainly receive people that are proud to be Republican and African American, but I think a lot of it has been more of people that are frustrated with the Democratic Party and are leaning Republican by default, by lack of options. So it's not so much an affirmative, vote for Republican as much as it is de facto because they don't know where else to go.
Yeah, and I think a lot of listeners there at WVON are frustrated with
Yeah.
the Democratic Party taking their votes for granted, getting their vote, but not African Americans getting something for their vote. So that's why I think when we joked about this the other day, Robin, when we were talking, it once was a time when I would cover the 2016 convention, and there would be one or two African Americans in the crowd. No, and the camera would zoom in on that one.
Right.
Now it's like you said, some African Americans are proud to say, I'm a Republican.
It also makes you a bit of a unicorn and you get more attention, right? If you're a black Democrat, you're among millions, right?
Yep.
As we talked about, if there are one or two African Americans in a crowd at a rally for a Republican, you can be sure they're sitting right where the camera can see them. And the criticism of tokenism or whatever. I think people are free to be with whatever party they want to be with. The idea of broken promises, Pastor Corey Brooks gave the closing prayer last night, and he has talked about broken promises from the Democratic Party. He supported former Republican Governor Bruce Rauner when Rauner and he is we know him as the rooftop pastor. He's with New Beginnings Church, and and kind of camped out on the rooftop trying to raise money for a youth center. He's gotten millions, and partly because of his affiliation with the Republicans, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, and a lot of people at WVON and some of our listeners there went in on Pastor Corey Brooks for even being connected to former Governor of Illinois, Bruce Rauner, saying that it's just all about the money. Stop taking the money and stand on something. Stop supporting the man and support the mission or the message.
Well, I thought it was interesting. We say the Democrats haven't kept their promise or done or delivered anything in return for this monolithic support that they get from the African American community. Republicans are making some promises, but not all of them perhaps are things that many African Americans would support. If you look at the Project 2025, I'm not sure that those are the kinds of promises that African Americans are actually looking for. And this graphic says Trump's Project 2025. I want to say that it is the Heritage Foundation project, but it is for uh, Trump's second term, and I'm not sure how aggressively the Republican Party is trying to distance themselves from Project 2025. But some of the things contained there are a little unsettling for some people. Yep, might have lost you guys. I love technology. Oh, there you are. Okay. So, do you think that Project 2025 is
We
going to
just
have
lost our connection. We
Okay.
can't hear anything.
You can't hear anything? Oh, I can hear you guys. Try again. One, two, three. Test. One, two, three. Let me see. Oh, okay. That's Atiba testing. He's telling me you can't hear. You can't hear? Let's try to reconnect. Want to disconnect and reconnect? Then we'll give Cindy some editing to do. So we'll just start again when we reconnect. I see them down there. Oh, I see producer extraordinaire Cindy Beasley is troubleshooting. One, two, three. You want me to talk? One, two, three. Okay. So Project 2025, we were just which is not something that Trump claims is going to be his blueprint, but the Heritage Foundation obviously believes that it should be for a second Trump term, and some of the social or moral aspects of it could really cause a problem with some large voting blocks. For instance, women with the right to choose and to have autonomy over your own body and health care may trump, excuse the term, everything else. I also thought it was interesting that last night Nikki Haley, well, the whole idea that Nikki Haley has now not just changed her tune, she's on a whole different songbook when it comes to Donald Trump, whom she once compared to Hitler and said he was unfit to serve. As president, but that's of course is when they were political rivals, and people say all kinds of things on the campaign trail, which I think is one of the problems that people have with politics and politicians. It should not be okay to lie, no matter where you are in your journey, in your political journey. You have to stand for something. But she said, and she only said the one sentence. She said, "A vote for Joe Biden for President Biden is a vote for President Kamala Harris. It's a vote for a Kamala Harris presidency." She did not elaborate. She didn't say, and that would mean A, B, C, D. That was it. That was enough. For some people, it's as if to say, well, obviously, if it's Kamala Harris that would end up president, then we can't have that black woman as president of these United States. I am going to, I don't know if we'll get Darlene and Atiba back, but you know how technology is. So I wanted to finish what I was saying about Pastor Brooks from New Beginnings Church. He did give a shout out to Chicago and the South Side in his prayer last night. But some of the online comments have been rather derogatory. But again, people are free to affiliate politically however they see fit. And that's one of the great things. Maybe it's the greatest things about our American system, though the electoral system, many people would argue, could use a reboot. That it has perhaps been captured by the two parties that don't want another party to have any kind of impact. If you're voting by default as opposed to actually voting for someone that represents the things that you want, that does not seem that doesn't seem like the right thing to do. We got him back. Are you back? Can you hear me?
And you know what, Robin? And I think that's what we're hearing from our listeners, that a lot of people will be doing just that this year.
Yep.
Just being part of the process. They feel like they have a responsibility, of course, and they're just like, we don't like either one of them, either one of the old men. And a lot of people are saying, I'd rather go with the old man versus the con man. You've heard that phrase. But I think
Hmm.
a lot of people during this process, during this election, this presidential election, they're just doing it out of obligation. And
Well,
voting for, go ahead.
So today at the Republican National Convention, the theme is "Make America Strong Again." Right. So it's all about foreign policy. They're going to talk about, the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan. They're going to talk about how, Putin just attacked anybody he wanted, but he didn't attack anybody or start any wars when Donald Trump was president. Making those kinds of comparisons. But on foreign policy, that's where Joe Biden has gotten into a lot of trouble since last October,
Well,
since the
and also
Israeli Hamas conflict.
presidential candidate has gotten into some trouble. JB Vance is expected to take the stage tonight. We'll hear from him for the first time. But on the issue of Ukraine, he's like, "Don't stop giving the money." So he's come under fire for that as well.
But it was the Republicans in Congress who held up the money to Ukraine just so that nothing would get done, and so they could say that the Joe Biden administration had done nothing, just as they held up the immigration bill, just so they could say, Joe Biden's done nothing. But
Driving into Milwaukee, we've seen a number of protests, a number of signs held up saying "No more money for war." We've even lining the streets. They're, of course, a distance away from Panther Arena, where we are right now. There are a number of protesters and large video monitors with some of Trump's hate speech on them playing as you walk past, or as you're in the area. You can see and hear and be reminded of some of the things that he said and done.
but the Palestinians' uh, condition uh, is what the young people, young black and for that issue, being less. They are not unequivocally in support of Israel. Let me put it that way. And it would appear from everything the Republicans are saying that they are saying, this is our strongest, our most precious ally. Uh, so kind of playing into that divide. So if the young people say we're not voting for Biden because we don't like the policy that the situation the Palestinians are in, and we're supporting Israel. But if they don't vote for Biden, then they're voting for the other side, which is even more hardline against Hamas and pro-Israel.
You raised a great point. I mean, I think you were alluding to it earlier. Joe Biden certainly has a Gaza problem,
Hmm.
right? And then to your other point, though, on the other side, even Republicans, though, even in this convention, they had, I think, Charlie Kirk speak, who has definitely had some issues, right, as it pertains to anti-Semitism. So they're not even in lockstep. But the one thing that they are lockstep in is there is going to be their support for Benjamin Netanyahu and allowing Israel to do whatever they want to do, kind of unchecked.
And if you just stay away from the polls, you're voting for someone, whether you know it or not. So it's interesting that post the assassination attempt, people have noticed kind of a little less hate speech. Are they the kind of is this the kinder, gentler Republican Party since that shooting and wounding of their candidate?
We were talking about that earlier this week on the station at WVON, and we've heard from a professor, Professor Williams over at Kennedy King College, who said we were looking and hoping for that kumbaya moment here. We are not going to get that, especially with his selection of the VP. We're not going to have that moment. I mean, it looks good. And if you think about it, Robin, too, Trump played golf on Sunday. Didn't have that bandage on, but he had it on yesterday, and he's had it on every
Oh,
night since he's been out.
I had not noticed.
Yes, yes, and it's a big one too that he's been wearing. So the moment of unification of the country united, we're not seeing that. We're not hearing that.
Well, the bar is so low, right?
Mm,
We have to start there. Right
yeah,
before the attempt, there were statements being made on the right. Statements like, "This will be bloodless if the left allows it."
right.
So that's the floor. So
That's
has it gotten moderately better from that floor? I guess so.
Well, the reaction has been also to boost him in the polls, and the I find interesting the stock market reaction to that assassination attempt. That stocks in gun manufacturers and private prisons have gone up. Stocks in green energy and solar energy have gone down, which would seem to indicate that people think that we're going to be wealthier and stronger by any means necessary, even if it's going to kill the environment. Um, I think we have lost you again, but you have a lot to do. We will be tuning in to WVON. Atiba and Darlene will be on from 2 to 6. The best way to listen to them is on iHeartRadio.com or on WVON.com. And we can get their perspective from the Republican National Convention, which is going on right now up in Milwaukee. The vice presidential pick for Donald Trump, Senator J.D. Vance, who's only been a senator a year and a half, is expected to speak today. Their theme is "Make America Stronger Again." There we go, Darlene and Atiba. At least you're back to say goodbye, and we'll be
We got
listening.
the Wi-Fi dropping in and out on us. As you can imagine, there are reporters from all over this country and all over the world here. We walking in, we heard some Russian reporters and photographers talking. So it's the buzz, it's the talk. So our Wi-Fi signal is pretty weak here.
It's challenged. Okay, it might be very strong, but it's trying to carry a lot. So I know you guys are
That's
hardwired for your broadcast on WVON, and I will be listening. And would you come back later on today and kind of uh, recap the day for me?
Oh, we'd love to.
Okay, thank you so
yes.
much. All right,
Thank
all
you.
right, thank you so much, Darlene and
Good to see
Atiba from WVON. In other news, and we'll have more of you guys later on. They're up at the RNC in Milwaukee. Have a great rest of your day.
you too.